Right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RBNY UK podcast. And before we introduce our very special guest, Luke seems to be hanging out pitch side, but realistically, he's just in his bedroom. So, Luke, how are you doing, my friend?
Not bad, not bad. It's been a while. Say
Yeah,
it's been a while. We have actually recorded the episode in its time,
yeah,
but it just never made it out because we couldn't.
no,
I
no,
was away and we couldn't get it uploaded. So it's basically a lost episode now.
yeah.
Um,
So it's in the archives and it will never come out. Even though I think I've got every score prediction right, what I said in
yes, you
that,
did, you did.
but there's no proof of it. So,
Maybe what we do 1 week, you just release it as like a bonus episode,
or
like
just put one prediction chat so people know
just
that I was
confuse
right.
people, just confuse people. Like why are we talking about a game from 5 months ago in November?
Yeah. I think yeah, whatever game it was, I can't remember when it was now. But obviously, moving on now to our very special guest and joining us once again, all the way from the lovely state of New Jersey. Anthony, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing really good. Basking in the glow of Lionel Messi.
Oh, but that's definitely a subject that we've heard a lot over here. And after Ronaldo's silly comments about the Saudi League, which I could officially do about 12 episodes talking about that, but it is actually MLS All Star Week as well at the moment of recording this, which is fantastic for me because I hopefully will get to see my beloved Arsenal versus John Tolkien tonight. So could be very interesting. So Luke, I guess you're not going to stay up for this one because you've got no
No,
interest really, have you?
I don't care. I don't care. Like I don't want to watch a team play against another team. I don't like Arsenal. I've got no interest in an all-star team, really. So no.
There was a year, I think it might be wrong. It's either 2018 or 2019, where the MLS All Stars beat Bayern Munich. So you never know. It can
No.
happen.
I did start for 2015 All-Stars and 2017. That's McCarthy made them. I stayed
Ah,
up for them too.
cool.
So and 2015 was a good year. So it's easy to start when we're not shit.
I was going to say, are you going to just change your name to Dax at some point? Because you might as well at this point.
Maybe he retires. I'll take it on in the middle name. It's
Well,
honorary.
at the end of basically probably at the end of this season. Right, we're going to hold you to that. So everyone listening to this, Luke will have a new middle name for next year. Perfect. But sadly, we're going to have to talk about Red Bulls at some point during this.
We
For
have to.
for reference, it was not the earliest of kickoffs for us this last weekend. Some muppet in this chat decided to
Me.
stay up for it in the UK, which was me. And after about 1 minute and 35 seconds, I was considering turning straight back off. But Anthony, it's not. It's been very up and down over the last quite a period for the Red Bulls. Good performance, poor performance, average performance. Should get a result, shouldn't get a result. It's it's just that stabilization period that hasn't come yet. We think we get two good results, and we're like, right, we're kind of making headway here, and then it just all goes to pot again, and then you look poor losing two games in a row.
Yeah, to be honest, the entire season comes down to the inability to get anything going on offense. The defense hasn't been horrible, although they've had mental lapses, and we saw that this week in that 2 second minute goal to Diego Luna. But really, overall, for this entire year, it's been the inability to create chances, and it's been the inability to put chances away that have burned the Red Bulls. Lots of losses by one goal, lots of 1-0 losses, things like that, where the feeling is that if the team can't keep a clean sheet, the team has absolutely no ability to be able to get a point, which really is not something that they should be relying on, to the point where the team's best goal scorer right now is Tom Barlow.
Yeah.
No offense to Tom Barlow, but that was
That's
not what was supposed to happen this year.
Tom Barlow would not play for any other club in its league. So I I've been slighted before on this podcast by a previous host. I will not mention names about being too negative. Tom Barlow would not make it as a professional soccer player in any other league. Not any other club in this league. And he's
He's
played
a good hand.
he played
I
100
do want to
games for
defend
this
him.
club. 100
I,
games.
I'm going to defend him a little bit. I look, is he like my starting 11 guy? No, he's not. He will do the job that you ask him to do. But unless that job is being a goal poacher, he's not that. But unfortunately, no one else in this team can do that. So
We
in a
have a striker,
two-striker
though, do we?
system,
We have a striker. We don't have an out-and-out striker.
We were supposed to have that. That was what Dante Van Zier was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we're well past now the Van Zier return from suspension phase, return from injury. If you see some games, he looks like he's a left winger. He's drifting out wide. He's nowhere near. Corey Burke is up and down, but we knew going in, Corey Burke honestly was supposed to be a backup this year. So I think we've gotten about as much out of him as we can do. Elias Manuel has not developed at all as much as we would have liked this year. You can think back to that missed penalty kick a few weeks ago that would have really helped Red Bull a lot. It really comes down to the money that is spent has not come through. And Dante Van Zier was supposed to be that connector. Obviously, it does hurt. Lewis Morgan has literally not played this year. But at the same time, Van Zier was supposed to be the guy. It's not there. If they score goals, things are a lot different. They make chances. You see that even in the RSL game, they had chances, but they just come up short.
I definitely agree with you. And I think that's the thing we've seen it in prior years where we've been hitting people on counters, especially I think that's what worked really well with Lewis Morgan last year, that he was dynamic, that he could take the ball, cut inside and get the shot off, ball over the top. And there's just no out ball at the moment. And it seems at the moment, I was talking to Luke about this in the message the other day, and I was looking at the roster in detail. I was just quite intrigued. I was going through it again. I was like, all right, Coronel's not had the best season, but he's still a very good option. The defense is not fantastic, but it's good enough. And then it's just tons of central midfielders. And I personally have always a firm believer of, even if you're going to play this system of having two up front and packing out the middle, you've got to have wide players at some point just to create an option of, you know what, this is not working this game. Let's put someone out on the wing and let them run. And what we've been doing, and it tends to be the case of, we have two strikers up top that rather than stay down the middle, they both go out on the wings. And then you're now left with a Frankie Amaya, for example, a Laquinias, who's then got to cover him in the middle and ends up scoring. But you can't be reliant on centre midfielders every game to score you a goal. Okay, Frankie Amaya started playing a bit better. Laquinias has been fantastic. And you can go on about all the options in there. They've all been good. But like we said, you're never going to do well in any league in world football, not alone the MLS, without a recognised number 9 who's going to score you. I'm not even going to say at least double digits. At this rate, at least 5 goals is going to be something of achievement. But you've got central midfielders / attacking midfielders for other teams around the league getting 12 to 14 goals that you're looking at them thinking, well, you're not even a striker and you're getting them goals. That's the problem. But I don't know if you agree. Would you like to see more wide options within the roster that we sometimes could change out? Because we have these central midfielders. Don't get me wrong, Carmona, very good playing out on the wing. Laquinias can play out on the wing. We can say about all the options, but having that out-and-out winger, I remember obviously going back a few years, having Royer when he first came in on the left side, or Lloyd Sam and Mike Grella. It's just sometimes need that running pace. And I think that's what hurts us quite a lot recently, is when the other team have them wingers running at the fullbacks.
Yeah, the other issue is, you're right. So there is a lot of speed on this team on the wing. So they have that. They have Cameron Harper, even though they've played him as a right back every now and then. But the issue is really, who is the general in the middle of the field? You know, for years, that was Sasha Kleshchen, who knew how to distribute a ball left, right, forward. Bradley Wright Phillips. And when I mentioned before the Van Zier, when you see a striker drop into the midfield or go left or go right, normally that's because they're not getting the ball enough. Yeah. And they're looking to be involved in the game because they feel like they're not doing anything. So when I see that, the first thing that comes to my head is they don't think that there's anyone that can get them the ball. And honestly, I don't think that there's a player on this team. They've shipped all those players out. At first it was, Kleshchen, he left. Kaku was fine at that until Armas kind of changed the system. Then after he leaves, there's been no one. There's been no one that's been able to be that general in the middle of the field. There's a lot of great defensive players. Like, I really do need to say, Danny Edelman is going to be a star. He's going to be great, but he's not. He is the guy that when your center back goes forward to make a tackle, that replaces him behind him. He's not the guy that's going to go forward and make a play happen. Frankie Amaya as well. Like, he could be an attacking midfielder, but he's more of a central midfield kind of guy. They really need that general that doesn't care about necessarily running into the box, but that's willing to pick up the ball from Edelman, from Amaya, and be able to distribute out wide so that somebody like Omir Fernandez or Cameron Harper doesn't have to worry about tracking back too much to make that happen. Because at this point, they have way too many guys that are willing to run up the wings, but they can't because they constantly need to worry about tracking back after losing the ball in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and obviously, I think it's been the similar problems all season. Obviously, there's been on and off injury problems. International like duty doesn't help at all. Obviously, losing Tolkien for so long and Corey Burke as well. Like, even like you referred to it, no one would have thought that we'd be missing Corey Burke as much as we did during that period of time. But it was just, it's not had that consistency of a unit. Like, it's been so many changes. Suspensions haven't helped at all this season. Obviously, Reyes has had a few different games out from suspension of yellow card accumulation. Nealis has missed games. Everyone's missed games. Obviously, Duncan's played half the games he could have done, but he's played at left back because Tolkien was with the US men's national team. So then Harper's had to fill in at right back. And then obviously now with CCJ going off to Toulouse in France, that's now left another person to come in. So, and I feel like I'm sure Anthony's going to agree with me here. I've never seen Red Bulls tweet as much as they have this year. Oh, we are giving short-term deal to RBNY 2 player. It seems like every match day there's about 5 tweets.
That's the point of the team. And to be fair to them, this is a weird year because we're about to take a month off from MLS for the Leagues Cup, which, if you want my opinion, we can talk about that tournament another time. But like we're about to take some time off. So there were a lot of Saturday games that happened, and injuries happened. These rosters are not allowed to be as big as they could be. There's a lot of players on Red Bull too. You guys know in England, you sign a guy to a Liverpool contract or an Arsenal contract, but they still play with that reserve team at some point. In MLS, you're not allowed to do that. So there's a lot of call-ups for a day or two or whatever that happens. That really, thankfully, they do have that depth. And look, we can talk about Red Bull too at another point, but there's a lot of really good raw talent there that could make a huge impact, but it's not ready yet to do that. So what we see now is we see the guys who are not we're seeing people sitting in chairs at the moment just to fill bodies, and that's not helpful to the team when they need a legitimate substitute off the bench.
As I say, we see it even sometimes where they do get on the pitch, whether it's due to injuries, they've actually looked good at times. And I've kind of been left wanting a lot of times. Like, oh, I'd like to see them a bit more, but like I say, especially with the roster and having the so-called bigger contract players, obviously the guys who are actually under contract with the first team, they've got to get their minutes. And I think the perfect example of this season was like Hassan and Dan, for example, has had the opportunity to play quite a bit of minutes within the team. And I've got to say, haircuts have been absolutely amazing. Like, wondering what colour is going to come up next because they have been fantastic. But even a player like that has shown that he has got something there. And I feel like he's improving, getting the more game time. And that's what you like to see. That's what obviously we can do full circle. This is why you have the second team, is to get these players minutes. We've seen it over periods of time where players have transitioned from that second team, obviously into the first team. But like I say, Leagues Cup now, you're losing a whole month in the season. And I know obviously people have different emotions, but I always say you wouldn't get in any other league in the world where they just go, you know what, we're stopping for a month for a new tournament. We're going to play some guys from down south and just ruin the whole season. Obviously, I still don't get it. Like, you can travel from East Coast to West Coast from a Saturday to a Wednesday. That's fine. But take a month out of the season. Yeah, no worries. We'll literally shake your hands on that one. But Luke, I know you're gasping at telling it. So thank you. Obviously, you've watched a lot of games on the replays. And before we move into like the next, talking about a little bit about the League Cup, I don't want to talk too much about it. What's your thoughts recently? Obviously, I know you're going to try and go in on some players here, but I'm hoping for the optimistic Luke to come out here Because I think the last time I actually see you in person, you're still actually quite confident of quite a positive outcome.
Yeah, I still think it might be a bit optimistic. I still think they'll make the playoffs. I think they have enough in its team. You've got to remember, it's 10 teams in its playoffs. Uh, I don't think. I think Red Bull's at least one of the top 10 best teams in its league. Basically, if you're not making the playoffs this year, you are shite. So, like, there's 14 teams in the league, 10 makes it. If you don't make the playoffs, you deserve not to make the playoffs that way. I think they'll sneak in. I think they'll. What do. I think winning a playoffs, you don't know, but likelihood is they probably won't get that far. Um, but then I think there's big questions ahead. Big questions about where the team goes. It's like they haven't won a trophy in 5 years now. There seems to be no direction from the front office of player transfers. At one point, it was going for this young homegrown model. That seems to be a bit more patchy. We don't know who the manager going to be next year yet. Is Troy a long-term option? Is he ready? I don't know. He seems to do some good things, but I'm not sure he's a long-term option personally. Because I would have thought you would give him a contract by now. If you're gonna stick with him, you probably have a contract with him. But I still think they can have a semi-successful season, and uh, they basically need to try and get all out in this League Cup, as far as I'm concerned. It's like the only chance for a trophy this season. Like, you win League Cup, you get in the Concacaf Champions League. Simple as that. Like, what have they got to lose? No, we're not going to challenge for Supporter Shield. You're probably not going to challenge for the US Open Cup. Probably not going to challenge for the MLS Cup. We're being realistic. So you might as well just go all out on League Cup and at least try and get a decent stage. Even if you don't win it, get to a decent stage from it. You're not fighting for anything else, so fight for the League Cup.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you there, especially it's all about, I always say it's a confidence thing as well, Leagues Cup. You start playing well in that. Obviously, if you go out and lose your 2 games and then you're sitting in the sidelines for 3 weeks doing nothing, that's going to do your mentality in already. You're going to be a bit, right, like we've lost 2 games in the Leagues Cup. Now we've got to wait here 3 weeks, simmering on a defeat with a couple of big games and one going to be very hyped up game, most likely if the person does play, who some Argentinian fella I've heard that signed for Inter Miami. Don't know much else about it. Apparently, according to this English legend of football, 3.5 billion people watched the unveiling. Yeah, I don't know where them statistics have come from, mate, but I definitely can't see 3.5 billion people, depending. I know about 50 people who didn't even know what MLS was on. They was like, oh, is it still on Sky? Oh, no. Is it on BT? No. Is it on TNT? No. It's on Apple. Didn't know that. So 3.5 billion is a bit sketchy.
3.5 billion people is half the world population as well.
Yeah.
So we're basically asking half the world to watch it. I mean, you think like some of the places we're talking, like have deep, deep poverty, some of the places in the world.
Half of Miami weren't even watching it. Not half of the world.
Yeah.
Even though
they were worried about whether or not Jimmy Butler was dating Shakira.
Yeah. To be fair, biggest storyline, and I can't blame it either. Like, fair play, Jimmy Buckets. That's what I'm saying. Fair play to him. But obviously, Leagues Cup, it's very much like Marmite. Either you love it or you hate it, really. Like, waste of time. But it could be a good way of trying to get some confidence in the players, and even maybe trying something new, that just trying to get a few results. Obviously, it's 2 very different opponents that we are facing, but it's the last case you need to do is lose both games and be sitting there for a few weeks on a couple of defeats, watching the rest of it go on, and obviously counting down the days. We've just come off quite a big break not too long ago of in between MLS games, and that's never handy for anyone.
No, it's not. The one thing I will say, so obviously on the 22nd they'll be playing New England. We know what to expect from New England. Just had a win over them. The Athletic San Luis is the big mystery. They played 3 games in their current season in Liga MX. I think they're 1-1-1 or something like that. They're a complete unknown. It is the chance for Troy to really figure out the style of play of what this team needs to be. I think if you get a positive result against I think New England is where you go in and you look for the win because you know how to play against them. You got it. You know how to hold them. You know how to frustrate them. You know how to get them to, how to get them to go cleats up into your groin if you're Latif Blessing. So you really know how to get under their skin. Get that win, especially in Red Bull Arena, and then worry about Atleti San Luis after the fact. It's not a high-profile game. Most people don't even know that team exists. So it is a chance to experiment. Do that. If you have that win over New England, you can experiment, be strong, get a draw out of it, and you're probably getting out of that group no matter what.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. Like, get out of it, get some minutes in the leg. So that's how I'm seeing it, as not an experiment, so to speak, but just play well, just see what happens. Obviously, the first game is the key one. You lose the first game, and then I'll tell you, I will not want to be on Twitter following that game just because it's going to be a nightmare anyway. But looking forward, it's hard to now look forward because we're going to say, after the League Cup, but we don't know how many games we're going to play, who we're going to play. It then does peter into the MLS season yet again. And it's really like this is a stopgap. And I was just wanting to do a little bit about how we've seen the Red Bulls so far, like who we've thought has been like the good performers, overachievers, and like what we've liked so far, because it's kind of a good point to step back and look at what's been before and what's going to come next. Obviously, the big push now is obviously getting to the playoffs afterwards. But Luke, has there been any players so far that have actually impressed you this season that you thought maybe either I was looking forward to seeing them anyway, but now you're like, I can definitely think they're matured in the team?
I think one of the big shouts is probably Cameron Harper. Cameron Harper is a player who is his first season now, I believe. First season?
Second season,
Second season. Didn't quite get up to the best start when he came in. Got brought in, wasn't properly used, and he came in next year, fitted really, really, really well in that right wing back role. Basically taking that spot from Carl Duncan most of the time, who used to be has played for a men's national team. And Frankie Amaya had done really well this year for me. Again, not quite lived up to expectations so far in his career, I would say. Like, it's been okay, but considering what they spent on him, that was a multi-million-pound deal. That was not quite lived up to that level. I feel this year he's really come on. So that's some players are doing quite well.
Yeah, so I think there's still a couple. Obviously, I think Corey Burke's got to get an honourable mention as well because, like I say, the expectations of him coming in was a bench player coming on to make an impact probably in the last 20 to 30 minutes of games. And actually, quite a lot of times started the games and played very well, been a presence up front and been that spearhead of an attack that, all right, he's not fired as many goals, but he was not brought in for that. He's having to play a role that, all right, he might say, I wanted to break into the first team, but as a roster choice, you're thinking, right, he's a good backup option. And I think another one for me I really like is Edelman in midfield. I just really like him. It gives me the Tyler Adams factor of a young player who knows what it is to play for Red Bulls, but also is dynamic on the ball. He's not afraid of playing the pass, making the tackle. Okay, sometimes he gets a bit carried away, does jump in for a tackle, but I like to see that. Modern day football, the other night he won an absolute fantastic tackle, but you can't jump in nowadays, sadly. But I think they're my two. But I don't know if, Anthony, there's anyone else you'd like to add. But there is positives to take out of this season, especially some of the players that they are playing well. It's not necessarily the players for the way the season's been going so far.
Yeah, no, I think there's incredible positives to take from a player standpoint. The big criticism of the Red Bulls, my big criticism is you have to spend money in incredible amounts of money in one of several areas. You either get your veteran players on the field or you get a veteran coach that they can look to and feel like they need a father figure on the field, essentially. In either they look to the sidelines for that or they look to their left or their right. Currently, the Red Bulls don't have that anywhere. And that's not to say that Troy Lesesne is not a good coach. I think he is a very good coach. I think he's finding his legs in Major League Soccer, but he's doing that with a bunch of players that are also trying to find their legs in Major League Soccer. And that's not a good combination for quick results, essentially. So like, I'm not saying that, like, I'll just throw his name out, Tata Martino or something. You know, you get Tata Martino with this crew, maybe things are different. But what you have now is a mix of inexperience with inexperience, and they're all learning on the field at the same time. And what that's producing is a very frustrating experience for fans. And they're not telling us, but what I'm saying is we got to be patient with these kids.
Yeah.
But the problem is, once they develop, they tend to go somewhere else. So, you know, like they really need to figure out a way. How do they keep that pipeline going while also making sure that this team is a success on the field? And I think that that's going to be the big problem. But if you're talking about players, I just want to also mark out Wiki Carmona has been tremendous in every position they've asked him to play in. Sometimes he is a 10, sometimes he's on the wing. He is going to be one of those players at some point when they finally put him in the position that they want him to be in.
No, I do agree with you. I remember the first time he came in for a game with Carmona, he looked a player that has the ability, and he no doubt has it. And I think the best thing about a lot of the players in the lineup, or what you say, the work ethic is brilliant. They don't care about not playing in their actual position. There's certain players within the league, especially some of the bigger names. If you was asking them to play left, play right, play central, play a bit deeper, they wouldn't be wanting it. But the team wants to play. They're buying into, let's just try and get it. But like you say, you see it a lot. Obviously, there's this term rebuilding process, which is used a lot in modern day sports in general. Obviously, it's massive in the American sports. Obviously, like when they look at basketball, for example, American football, but even football in Europe, that it's always going to become a point where your roster gets that little bit older and you've got to start moving players on. Okay, rebuilding processes, there's definition of time. Some say 2-3 years, some can be 5-6 years. Like, you look back at the big teams that won the Supporters' Shield, the actual roster was old. It had the experience, like you were saying before. Jesse Marsh was a coach at the time that worked perfectly with that system, whereas now it's a younger squad. You look at experience levels within the team, there's not much experience at all. You compare it to some of the other rosters in the league who are playing well. You've got people, they've got 5, 6, 7 times the amount of MLS appearances, and that shows in certain situations of seeing out a game or trying to get back into a game that experience can't be taught on the training ground. It's about actually playing the situations yourself. And I think that's a massive thing of, it's hard to, it's a results driven business. You want to win, but at the back of your mind, like you said, it's not all about winning with the certain players we've got in the team at the moment. Obviously, like you do say, it's one of them, 2-3 years time, this kid's going to be a real big talent. Probably will be. And then no doubt it'll probably be 6 months, and then he'll end up moving on to somewhere in Europe. That's the problem. It's just, you think, just get in there. Whereas in Premier League, if you're a big team, you're just at the big team. You don't move on. But Luke, obviously now we've talked about the Leagues Cup, and before we talk about a bit more Red Bulls related, I know you've got a little announcement, I believe, that you want to do, just a little one on this podcast. I'll let you do that one, my friend.
Yes. So, did we mention it in the previous one? Was that in the one we didn't release?
No.
So in the podcast you never saw, we sort of mentioned that we had some news coming. We sort of mentioned it on Twitter a few times. We're working on something, and we've been working on it for a couple months now. And basically, you most people you know, but we basically decided to launch our own magazine because who says print media is dead? Who says it's dead? I won't repeat the line, but there's a famous quote from a CW show which people mock on Twitter about print media, blah blah. So basically, we're going to do a monthly magazine called The Harrison Metro. And basically, every month will be a new edition, going on match recap, match previews, interviews, the whole shebang. Basically going to be like it's basically what we call a fanzine in the UK. I don't know if there are things in thing in America. I'm not sure, but in the UK, we used to be quite big, so like quite big really. It's going to be available to download for free online, but we are also going to be doing limited print ones for people who are interested in that. So yeah, it's quite exciting. And obviously, we have got a new recap writer. I say new recap writer. It's an old recap writer, Anthony Merced. So yeah, exciting. It's very exciting. I think I've got everything in there I need to get out. I
Yeah,
think.
no, obviously podcast is going nowhere. We'll still be doing the
Yeah.
podcasts. But it was we remember you mentioning it a good probably about 6 months ago. And
Yeah.
then it was slowly getting in the works and then started ramping up. And then obviously within the last 2 weeks, it's really taking shape.
Yeah.
We're just trying to bring a fan's perspective on everything by the fans for the fans. I think a lot of things that we see for the MLS base is a lot obviously business related, like journalistic approach, but sometimes you want that actual rapport with a writer that they know more about the team. It's not just they're not just there to do their job, but they're actually there to talk about what they think.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to try and do. It's not just be your stereotypical, right? We're just talking about the games. There's going to be other aspects to it as well. Some more light-hearted stuff in there as well, which would be good. Looking back at former players, also looking around the world at the moment of which players who have featured for the New York Red Bulls but now taking place in Europe, for example, we'll be doing. I think obviously looks at Tyler Adams, what is going up with him, but even people like Tom Edwards and players like that who are in the European system. Caden Clark looks like he might be playing in the Eredivisie next season. We'll be keeping a close eye on him. But no, it should be really good. And then there'll be a few quizzes and other trivia-based stuff in there as well. But yeah, it's going to be very good. And do pay attention because as of this coming out, or it might already be out, we're releasing the actual logo of it just so people understand the brand identity. And like we say, from my perspective, and obviously Luke's perspective, we look forward to bringing you the first edition. And obviously, Luke's going to be the spearhead, so to speak, for it. You'll see his lovely face on page 1, no doubt. Not on the cover. We're not putting him on the cover just quite yet. Maybe if he wants to travel over to Harrison and maybe try and have a going goal or something, we might go. But Luke, is there anything else you want to say about any more details, or is it just going to be a stay tuned to like the Twitters and any website?
Keep an eye on websites, keep an eye on Twitter. I think it will be soon. We announce the publication, the first date published. Not quite, but I will say we've got a draft going.
Yeah,
we've got our draft obviously going. It's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be amazing. I'm very excited, and we should really say thank you for the people who shown us support. Really, we've got loads of subscribers already waiting for news, so we are very, very humbled. Essentially, we're just two guys sitting in New York, sitting in the UK, caring about a football team about 26,000 miles away. It's pretty mad, but maybe next year we might finally get that trip over. Maybe, hopefully, that's the plan. Then maybe we can do something on the magazine about it. Maybe.
Yeah, a nice little spread in it. But like I say, obviously, do pay close attention to the socials for all the upcoming news on that. No doubt we're looking forward to sharing it all and it'll be a great experience. But obviously, turning our attentions just back to obviously the team and obviously like this mid-season break. Obviously, it's not been the best of starts. Obviously, the record is not what we was hoping for going into it. But realistically, obviously, at the moment, 6 wins on the season after 23 games is not what you want. 8 draws and 9 defeats. But realistically, Anthony, how do you feel like it's going to play out? Obviously, now with the additional spots within in the East and West for the playoffs, you can be not as good and still get in. And as we always stress, the playoffs are the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. So how do you feel it's going to play out, obviously, after this Leagues Cup campaign?
I think they're a playoff team. I think that there have been moments, there have been drop points in places that if corrections are made, they can get the points that they need. Obviously, they've beaten bigger teams in certain moments. New England is a great example of that. So I think I think 100% they're a playoff team. I think that the streak can continue. And they have the kind of defense that I think could help them go far if they have the confidence once they get there. So yeah, I think that this is a team that will make it 7, 8, 9. I think they'll be in that range come October.
And Luke, I know you briefly touched before you still think playoffs, but in terms of obviously we need to pick up some more results here and there. There's positives, but is there anything else? Not just the results that you're looking for in the second part of the season, like obviously goals are going to be the thing that everyone's going to say. Goals from strikers, that's going to be the main one. But is there anything else, any certain players you're looking forward to seeing or anything to change at all?
I think the obvious question that is a fit Lewis Morgan. We haven't seen a fit Lewis Morgan all season, really. We need Dante to start scoring goals. Dante's not really done it this year. Obviously, it was about situation, which we won't go into. That's been bitten by a stick right now, everything needs to be been said. But even since he's back from the suspension, he's not really done it week in, week out. He's not the main goal scorer we were told he was going to be. And this is at the moment, it's another season where we have not replaced Buddy White Phillips. And it's been 4 years since he left the club, and we still have not got a replacement for him.
And I've got a very fun trivia question now. And we're going to predict who we think the Red Bulls' top goal scorer will be at the end of the season. And I know Luke's going to say Tom Barlow, so he is his number one fan. But it's going to be quite an intriguing one because I think there's quite a few players who could take this because it's so close at the moment. I wouldn't even put it past centre half at this point, covered up with some headers and then winning it. But Anthony, who do you think at the end of the season is going to finish with the most goals? Because it's actually very competitive at the moment. Now, of the goals we're scoring, they are getting shared out quite a bit.
Oh my goodness. This is a hard one because I know Tom Barlow obviously is ahead at the moment, but oh boy, put me on the spot here. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say Frankie Amaya is gonna end up at the top of that list. That's a real that's a reach, but I think he's gonna be the one.
Yeah, I'm not going for a striker either. I'm actually going to go for Luquinhas. I think he's got a good chance of getting quite a few goals. He's a very all-round player, very good ball striker, very good positional awareness. That, like I say, we were saying Frankie, but he knows where to be at the right time to pick up the goals. And how the season's going, I just can't see it being a striker. But Luke, are you going to break the midfielders and go for the striker to finish?
I am. Oh. And believe it or not, I am actually going with Tom Barlow because that's just going to be the most Tom Barlow thing to happen all season. It's like it is things. If you think about it, he's like the starting striker at the moment. So he's going to play most games. So he probably will end up being a top goal scorer, which if we don't laugh, just cry. So we've got to embrace it and embrace ourselves as a team that made Tom Barlow our top goal scorer because, look, he's a lovely guy. He runs his arts off, but it is concerning. We seriously talking the fact that Tom Barlow might end up being our top goal scorer is slightly concerning, really.
Yeah, the thing is though, you never know. There's still quite a few goals to be scored, so you never know. You do never know. He might get.
He might have scored 20 goals between now and the season. Come on, you never know.
But if he scores 20 goals for the rest of the season, I think you should actually change your name. Rather than put Dax as your middle name, it should be Luke Tom Barlow. I think that's a fair one for you. But obviously,
he's got 13 in his 112 games for us.
13 more than any of us. So
yes, that's true.
Even though I do, if it weren't for, I'm going to say the old cliche, if it weren't for my knee injury, I never know where I could have been. But it's like I say, it's going to be a very intriguing few weeks. And I think there's no other better way because we're not talking about a certain player in the league and him bringing all of his mates over because, like we say, that could be a talking point for a very long time. And obviously, it's still quite a way away, and there'll be other podcasts before talking about the game against the guys in pink. So we will talk about that on another day. But we do look forward to the next few games, obviously Leagues Cups, obviously, of recording this, it's the day of the MLS All-Stars game, so it's Arsenal versus John Tolkien, as I like to call it. Not the MLS All-Stars, it's the Arsenal versus John Tolkien. Hopefully get to see him out on the pitch against my beloved Arsenal. But like I say, it's been another interesting few weeks in the Red Bull world, and I think that's how it always is. It's always interesting. There's never a dull moment, and always something to talk about. And I think the last thing, actually, I've got to talk to you, Anthony, about is this is away from obviously Red Bulls for the moment, and sort of just about the MLS in general, because there's a chance of more eyes on the league. And how do you feel like there's not pressure on the league now to deliver to a global audience, but do you think they're going to be really paying attention now to the viewing numbers and trying to change it at all? Because there's pressure now, obviously, with the Saudi leagues and the eyes going there, that they don't want that to really take over, even though they've got a considerably more amount of money.
And I don't think that so the Saudi League has absolutely no presence on television here in the United States. So I don't think that they're worried about that.
Or here, to be fair.
Yeah. So I think that the one thing, so football presents a very interesting conundrum here in the United States, because all of the other sports that we export to the world, the best players, well, maybe not always, but some of the best players come from here. I was just thinking about baseball and how Shohei Ohtani is like literally putting on a show. But I think that what we're at a cusp of is presenting our version of football to the world. And that's not necessarily in how it's played on the field, because I think that we play a very this side of the world form of football. And what I mean by that is CONCACAF, CONMEBOL. If you're used to the South American style, you'll know the United States presents a lot more physicality than a lot of other leagues anywhere in the world. I think that what their goal needs to be is creating an identity for us here. And I think that Lionel Messi will bring eyeballs. Lionel Messi will not define MLS the same way David Beckham did not. The players that do, the Landon Donovans, the Josie Altidores, Tyler Adams, all of these players that have come over time, those are the ones that will define us. And I think that through the way you guys have obviously been drawn to us, because of that, really shows, because you guys could have easily just made a podcast about La Liga and done all of that. Well, what is it, La Liga EA now? Because they
it'd be much easier to watch them. Wouldn't be
so yeah, and a much better vacation, I'm sure. So I think that really what this is going to be is a chance for everyone to see a fair or a competition with more hurdles for teams, so that you don't feel like you're watching a team that is just always going to lose. And I know that I'm saying that from the perspective of a New York Red Bulls podcast who have never won anything major, but that is more to do with
Shield's a major. They're counting major trophies.
Sure. Well, I mean, we can count the plates. We can count the plates.
In my world, they're major trophies. Yeah. In Europe, they're major trophies. So in my logic,
we did draw Arsenal in 2012 and win the Emirates Cup. So exactly. That's another one.
That counts. We came out as well.
But yeah, I think that's going to be what it is, and I think that it's going to be a really great chance for people around the world to get to know American sports overall in a better way.
I agree. And I think the thing I've said to a lot of my friends is removing the stigma that is attached with the MLS, which is not true at all, but has been put on a false narrative by the European market, and actually showing that it's a very good league to watch with a good standard and actually has a load of good young talent. And I said to her, there's quite a few players in the MLS that will do a job in the Premier League and do not just a lower team going towards relegation, at top European teams. There's players in the MLS who would do a job there, and no doubt some of them will be transitioning over to Europe at some point. Obviously, the main one I keep talking about, I'm a big fan of his, Thiago Almada. There's no chance that he's not playing in the Champions League within the next 2 years, in my personal opinion. He's that good. Obviously, the first ever active MLS player to win the World Cup winning roster for Argentina, obviously in Qatar. And obviously, that then turns your attention, obviously, now as well to 2026 with the World Cup, obviously in Canada, US, and Mexico, where it's a perfect storm of getting the MLS out there. The eyes are on there. The whole world would be watching US, Mexico, and Canada, and no doubt by then as well, the US men's national team will be at a very good standard. It's a good standard at the moment, but a very good standard, and hopefully will go far in that competition. But it's like I say, there's always talking points, and we will talk about them a lot more in detail in the future of the future of the MLS and US men's national team. But obviously, of recording this, it actually is the Women's World Cup. It launches for us tomorrow morning. For you guys in the night, time zones are all crazy because it's in Australia, so it's all everywhere. But like I say, that's going to be a good one as well. So everyone listening, I hope you do enjoy the Women's World Cup as well, because no doubt it's going to be a very good spectacle. Obviously, the US women's national team have a few of the big players in Megan Rapinoe. Looks like it's her last. Well, it's her last World Cup. It could potentially Alex Morgan's as well. And like for us, England might have the best shot of doing very well for a change. But please enjoy that. Enjoy the Leagues Cups as well. And it's going to be a good few weeks to a few good months of soccer and football. But like I say, Anthony, thank you ever so much yet again for joining us on the podcast. And no doubt, you're more than welcome whenever you want to come on and just talk about the Red Bulls and anything and everything.
Yeah. Thank you guys very much. And go to Red Bull News Network for New York Red Bulls, New York Red Bulls 2, RB Leipzig, and Red Bull Salzburg coverage.
It's basically anything Red Bull related. That's where you go. And obviously, when we put this out on Twitter, all the links will be there in that chat. So I know Luke will put all the links in there. And if he doesn't, well, we know that it's Luke's fault because everyone can hear this. So we'll make sure that it all goes out. But Luke, until next time, hopefully we'll be back in person for another edition. Yeah. And hopefully it'll get uploaded this time. But like I say, from me and Luke and Anthony, of course, wish everyone out there is doing safe and staying well, enjoying everything. But most importantly from us, come on, you Red Bulls.